The storm outside was just beginning to rumble when Aiden Hart took the wrong staircase. He was supposed to be upstairs, third floor, west wing, inspecting the renovations of one of his newest acquisitions, the Grand Bellevue Hotel. But his call had dropped mid-sentence, and in search of a better signal, he wandered deeper into the building, away from the marble lobby and polished conference rooms, down into the guts of the hotel. And that's when he heard it, a muffled sound, barely louder than the hum of old pipes and creaky ventilation. It wasn't machinery. It wasn't footsteps. It was sobbing, soft, controlled, but full of something that didn't belong in a hotel basement. He paused behind a steel beam, listening. His expensive shoes clicked softly as he turned the corner. There, beneath a dim utility bulb and wedged between cleaning carts and stacked linens, sat a girl in a faded gray Maid uniform. She didn't see him at first. She was curled into herself, knees pulled to her chest, her shoulders shaking. Her hair was tied back with a fraying elastic, and her hands, red and raw from scrubbing, covered her face. Aiden's voice was automatic, softened by instinct. "Are you all right?" The girl jolted upright like a deer. Her eyes went wide, and she scrambled to stand, wiping her face with trembling hands. I'm sorry, sir. I wasn't sleeping. Please don't report me. I'll get back to work, I swear." He didn't move. "You're not in trouble." But she was already trying to leave. As she stood, a notebook slipped from her apron pocket and landed open on the floor between them. Drawings. Childish ones. A small boy holding a balloon. A stick-figure woman beside him, labeled 8 Mara. Aiden picked it up before she could. The girl's entire face stiffened. "Please," she whispered, barely audible. That's my brother's. Please don't." He looked up at her. "I'm not here to get you in trouble." She stared at him, distrust thick in her eyes. For a long second, the world was silent, just a billionaire holding a child's sketch in a dim hotel basement and a maid trying not to cry again. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Mara." "Mara," he repeated. "I'm Aiden." She nodded awkwardly, pulling the notebook to her chest. "I need to get back upstairs," she said. "My shift's not over." He stepped aside and let her pass. But before she disappeared into the maze of laundry trolleys and supply closets, he said one last thing. "I won't forget this." She didn't respond, just walked away. But the image stayed with him, a girl crying in silence where no one was supposed to see, holding the weight of a world she never asked for. And for the first time in a very long time, Aiden Hart couldn't just walk away. Aiden Hart had walked out of boardrooms where millions were at stake without a second thought. He'd ended mergers, shut down failing branches, and someone accused her of stealing leftover pastries from the banquet fridge. The manager shrugged. But it wasn't pursued. No proof. Just a formal note. She's still under probation. Aiden frowned. "Do you believe she did it?" "Honestly, we get stories like that all the time. Most of these kids are just trying to survive." He leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers against the table. "Can you tell me where she lives?" The manager blinked. "Sir, we can't give out personal. I'm not asking as a guest. I'm the owner. If one of my staff is sleeping in the basement and breaking down between shifts, I have a right to know why." Reluctantly, the HR manager slid a file toward him. Mara lived in a converted utility room. No window. A curtain where a door should be. Shared bathrooms down the hall. She was not officially listed as a tenant. Just a friend of another staff member who let her crash there. That night, Aiden returned. Not to confront her, but to see it for himself. He walked through the basement corridors quietly, passing janitor closets and empty halls until he stopped at a door propped open by a brick. The room inside was small, barely large enough for a bed and a set of shelves. A single battery-powered lamp flickered in the corner. On the floor was the same notebook he had seen the night before, and on the shelf beside it, a box of medications, a school ID, and a framed photo. A boy, maybe 6 or 7, holding Mara's hand in front of a rundown elementary school. Her brother. Suddenly, it all connected, the fatigue in her voice, the red hands, the fear when he'd seen her cry. She wasn't just tired. She was stretched thin in every direction. Later, Aiden stopped at the security desk and made an offhand request. Next time Mara Elizalde clocks in, let me know. I just want to make sure she's doing okay. The guard nodded, puzzled but obedient. Meanwhile, Mara's day was breaking her in pieces. She had barely slept. Her brother, Jomar, had woken with a high fever. She'd spent the last of her tips on medicine and powdered milk. The power in her shared room had flickered out again. And still, she put on her uniform, pinned back her hair, and clocked in for her shift like nothing was wrong. On her break, she hid in the stairwell to eat a cold sandwich and look over her little brother's homework. Miss Elizalde? A voice interrupted her. She jumped. It was the guard. Mr. Hart requested to see you. He's in the lounge upstairs. Her stomach dropped. Was she being fired? Reported? Exposed? She walked up the carpeted stairs with a lump in her throat and stood outside the lounge door for a full minute before knocking. When she entered, Aiden Hart stood up from a chair by the window. He wasn't holding papers. He wasn't in a suit. Just a soft gray sweater and dark jeans, looking nothing like the towering figure she remembered. "I'm sorry to call you in like this," he said. "You're not in trouble." She didn't speak. "I just wanted to ask, are you okay?" he said. She blinked. "Why do you care?" He didn't answer right away. Then, because someone should. And just like that, the wall she had spent months building brick by brick, hurt by hurt, began to crack. Mara didn't believe in kindness without a catch. Her world didn't allow it. People didn't help without expecting something back, especially rich ones. Especially men in quiet lounges asking personal questions. So, when Aiden Hart offered her a warm drink that day, she refused. When he asked if she needed anything, she lied. When he said, "You can talk to me," she just said, "I really need to get back to work." He let her go. But that night, when she opened her locker, she found a brown envelope tucked into the side. No note, just a voucher for a free meal in the hotel cafe with her name printed neatly on the tag. She stared at it for a full minute, then tore it in half and threw it away. Because kindness like that came with strings and she didn't have time to get tangled. 2 nights later, Mara was carrying her feverish brother down 3 flights of stairs after the shared building elevator broke. Jomar was barely conscious. His body was burning up, lips cracked, breath shallow. She wrapped him in her old cardigan and rushed through the streets in her slippers, heart pounding like a drum. They arrived at the pharmacy just before it closed. Mara ran in, clutching Jomar in one arm, her wallet in the other. "Ma'am," the clerk said gently, "this antibiotic is 2,000 pesos. "I have 1,500, she whispered. "Can you just give me half?" "I'm sorry. We can't break the dosage. It's against the law." Tears welled in her eyes. Her brother whimpered. A man behind her stepped forward. "Put it on my tab," he said to the pharmacist. Mara turned around. Her mouth fell open. Aiden Hart was standing there wearing a hoodie, his face partially shadowed by the lights. She was too stunned to speak. He didn't say anything else. Just placed his card on the counter, nodded once at her, and walked away without another word. The next morning, Mara stood in the staff elevator gripping a small paper bag. Inside was the antibiotic he'd paid for. Her brother's fever had broken overnight, and he was finally sleeping again. She didn't know what to say, or whether to say anything at all. That evening, she walked past the hotel's west hallway and found him again, this time inspecting lights with a contractor. She hesitated, then approached, slow and careful. "Mr. Hart," she said softly. He turned. "I didn't say thank you," she murmured. "You don't have to." "I want to," she insisted, her voice firmer now. "You didn't have to do that." "But you did." He shrugged. "It wasn't a big deal. It was to me." They stood in silence. The hallway buzzed with low activity, voices echoing in the background. But in that moment, everything else faded. "I'm sorry about the voucher," she said finally. "I shouldn't have thrown it away." He offered the smallest smile. "I shouldn't have sent it anonymously." She blinked. "Why did you?" He looked at her, tired, fragile, but still standing like someone who refused to break. "Because I knew you'd never accept it if you thought it came from me." Over the next few days, something shifted. He didn't hover. He didn't intrude. But somehow he was always around when she needed him most. When her mop broke, a new one appeared. When her brother needed school shoes, a donation box coincidentally showed up in the staff room. When a guest yelled at her for something she didn't do, Aiden appeared behind her like a shadow and simply said, "Is there a problem here?" No one messed with her after that. Still, Mara kept her distance. Because caring came with consequences. An attachment was a luxury she couldn't afford. But one night, when she came back from her shift, she found her brother asleep with a note in his hand. Aiden had left it with a staff member. It read, "He said his sister is too busy saving everyone else to notice how tired she is. Maybe this will help." Inside the envelope, a refillable grocery card. No name, no tracking, just silent help. Mara sat on her cot that night and didn't cry. Not like in the basement. This time, she let the tears fall without shame. Because for the first time in a long time, someone saw her. Not as a problem, not as a charity case, but as a person. It was supposed to be a normal night. Mara had learned how to stay invisible. She kept her head down, her badge in place, and her smile soft but forgettable. The new shift supervisor didn't even know her name, and that's how she preferred it. But some people notice when others are seen. Jealousy is louder than kindness. So when Mr. Hart was seen exchanging words with Mara near the elevator, "Just a passing thank you," the whispers began. "She's trying to get close to him. She's flirting for favors. Did you hear he's paying her bills?" None of it was true. But truth had never been stronger than gossip. That's why 3 days later, Mara's world collapsed. It happened at 7:42 p.m. Mara had just finished polishing the brass handrails on the 8th floor when 2 security officers approached. "Miss Elizalde, please come with us." Her stomach dropped. "Why? What happened?" They didn't answer. She was escorted downstairs to the security office. Waiting inside was the new supervisor, arms folded, scowling. "We found this in your cart," he said, tossing a small jewelry pouch on the desk. Mara blinked. "What is that?" "It belongs to Suite 812. A guest just reported it missing." "I've never seen it before." Her voice cracked. "I didn't. You were the last one assigned to the room. Your name is on the log." Panic surged in her chest. "Please check the cameras. I didn't take anything. I don't even touch the drawers. My aunt taught me not to." The supervisor ignored her. "You're on probation. This kind of behavior is grounds for immediate termination." She shook her head violently. "I didn't do this. Please, someone's trying to." Before she could finish, another voice entered the room like a quiet storm. "Where's the footage?" The heads turned. Aiden Hart stood in the doorway, eyes cold, voice sharp. The room fell silent. "Mr. Hart," the supervisor started. "Show me the hallway cameras. Now." 5 minutes later, Aiden was staring at the grainy footage. It showed Mara entering the suite with her cart, doing her usual tasks, and leaving with nothing in her hands. Her routine was clean, efficient, no signs of theft. But a different angle, 2 hours later, showed another maid slipping into the room without signing in. The same maid who had smirked when she saw Aiden speak to Mara days before. Aiden turned to security. "That's your thief, not her." Mara sat in the corner, her hands trembling. When the supervisor looked at her again, something in his face shifted. Shame, maybe, but he said nothing. Aiden walked to her slowly. "Come on," he said. "Let's get out of here." They ended up in the employee garden. It was dark and mostly empty, just a few benches and dying flowers. Mara sat down hard, her shoulders tight. "I didn't ask for your help," she whispered, her voice flat. "I know. Then why?" She looked at him finally, her eyes red and tired. "Why are you doing all this?" Aiden didn't answer at first. He sat beside her. Not close, just near enough to listen. "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago." Her throat tightened. "You remind me of someone I lost," he added quietly. "She was kind, quiet, strong, just like you. And no one noticed until she was gone." They sat in silence. The wind rustled through the garden, and far off, the city lights blinked like stars trying to find their way home. "I'm not special," Mara said softly. "That's where you're wrong," Aiden replied. The next morning, the maid who framed Mara was suspended. An internal investigation began. The story spread how a maid almost lost her job over a lie. But something else spread too. People started treating Mara differently. Not because she was protected, but because now they saw her strength. Her grace under pressure. Her refusal to break even when the world tried to crush her. And Aiden? He watched from a distance. Because this wasn't about saving her. This was about standing beside her while she saved herself. A week had passed since the accusation. Mara was cleared, but the echo of that night stayed with her like a bruise that wouldn't fade. Every time she walked down the hotel halls, she felt eyes on her. Not mocking ones anymore, just curious. Respectful. Quietly apologetic. Still, she kept her head down. She didn't like being seen like this. She had work. She had her brother. She had no space left in her world for complications, even ones with kind eyes and quiet hands. But Aiden wasn't done. It happened on a Monday. After a long shift, Mara returned to her locker to find an envelope sitting atop her folded apron. Inside was a single card from the Heart Foundation and a typed letter. "Dear Miss Elizalde, we are pleased to offer you a full academic scholarship through our Women in Service Resilience Fund. This includes tuition, housing support, mentorship, and priority placement in one of our allied universities. You were recommended personally for your strength, character, and work ethic. No repayment required. No obligations. Just belief in your potential." Her hands shook. She read the letter 3 times. The words blurred. She couldn't breathe. She ran to the back hallway and dialed the number on the card. The line rang once. And he answered. "Mara," Aiden said softly, already knowing it was her. "Why?" she blurted, voice shaking. "Why would you? Why me?" "Because you deserve it. I'm a hotel maid. You're a survivor. It's charity. It's a second chance." She went silent. "Please just think about it," he added. "It's yours if you want it. No strings." Her throat tightened. "I'll call you back." That night, Mara sat in her shared room while her brother slept beside her. She held the scholarship letter in her lap like it was a live thing, breathing against her hands. She wanted to say yes. God, she wanted to. But a voice in her head whispered all the reasons not to. They'll say he's only helping because he likes you. They'll say you didn't earn it. They'll say you climbed your way out through someone else. And that more than anything scared her. She couldn't let anyone take away what she had built with scraped knees and silent tears. The next day, she marched into Aiden's office. He stood when he saw her, surprised. "I can't accept it," she said, her voice clear but pained. "Not like this." His jaw tightened. "You think people will talk?" "I know they will." He sighed. "Then let them. You don't owe them anything." "I owe myself something," she replied. "I need to do this on my terms." He didn't fight her. But as she turned to leave, he said one last thing. "Leave the card. If you ever change your mind, it's still yours." She didn't look back. But she didn't leave it behind either. 2 weeks later, her brother collapsed at school. Mara raced to the hospital. The nurse asked for his insurance. She had none. She begged the admin to wait. Just wait. As she stood in the hallway clutching her brother's small hand, her phone buzzed. A single message from Aiden, "Still yours. Still no strings." She didn't reply. She just opened her bag and pulled out the card. A month later, Mara stood at the gates of Everbridge University, clutching her registration folder. She was wearing clean jeans, a plain blouse, and sneakers with no holes. She'd accepted the scholarship. On one condition, she would work part-time at the student clinic. She would earn her future even with help. Aiden met her once outside the campus cafe. Just a simple hello. No cameras. No flowers. No speeches. He smiled. "So you said yes?" She smiled back. "No. I said maybe. I'm still deciding." He laughed. And that was enough. Because this wasn't about gratitude. It was about dignity. And Mara wasn't a story of rescue. She was a story of resilience. The ballroom shimmered with golden light. Crystal chandeliers swayed gently above a sea of black suits and satin gowns. Waiters moved like shadows through the crowd, carrying champagne flutes and hors d'oeuvres on silver trays. Mara stood near the edge of it all, still, quiet, and overwhelmed. This wasn't her world. And yet here she was, wearing a simple navy dress gifted by the foundation. Hair pinned back by her best friend from the clinic. A second-hand clutch in hand. Her posture was unsure, but her presence was undeniable. She had come alone. Not to impress. Not to network. Just to listen. Because tonight, Aiden Hart was delivering the keynote speech at his annual Hart Foundation Gala. And she had no idea he would speak about her. When Aiden walked onto the stage, the room hushed. He wore a charcoal suit, sleek, clean, but nothing flashy. Just like him. Just like the man he had slowly become. He looked out at the guests, CEOs, donors, politicians. Then he spoke. "I used to measure success by numbers," he began. "Contracts signed, assets acquired, profit margins achieved." He paused, eyes scanning the crowd. But then, one night, I found someone crying in a place no one should ever have to cry. In a hotel basement, behind a boiler room. The audience shifted. Some leaned forward. She wasn't asking for help. She wasn't performing sadness. She was hiding it. Quietly. With dignity. Mara's breath caught in her throat. She didn't know who I was. She didn't try to impress me. She just wanted to finish her shift, take care of her brother, and keep her life from falling apart. That kind of strength, it doesn't ask to be noticed. But it deserves to be. He paused. She changed the way I see everything. There was no name, no reveal. But Mara knew. And her chest tightened with something deeper than gratitude. He wasn't telling her story for applause. He was telling it for meaning. After the gala, she slipped away to the balcony. The city lights stretched out before her like a quilt of stars. Cool air brushed her shoulders. And for a moment, she just breathed. No uniforms. No expectations. No shadows. Just her. Then, behind her, she heard soft footsteps. She didn't need to turn. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," Aiden said. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "I don't like attention." He chuckled softly. "I've noticed." They stood side by side for a moment, saying nothing. Just watching the night breathe. Then he said, almost shyly, "Do you remember what I told you in the garden that night? That you reminded me of someone I lost?" She nodded. "I didn't tell you the whole truth," he said. "That person I lost was myself." Her eyes flickered toward him. "You brought him back," he added, with nothing but honesty and tired eyes. Mara looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't do anything. You lived," he replied. Fully, fiercely, and without ever asking to be seen. He turned to face her. "And I fell in love with that." Her breath hitched. "I love the way you carry your pain like a promise," he said. "I love how you never begged for kindness but gave it anyway. I love that you never asked to be rescued and still rescued me." Silence fell between them like snowfall, soft, slow, and heavy. Then finally Mara spoke. "You scare me," she said, her voice trembling. He nodded. "You scare me too." She looked at him. "Because I don't know what this is," she continued. "And I've spent so long being afraid of losing control. Of depending on someone. Of being seen." Aiden stepped closer, gently taking her hand. "I'm not asking for anything tonight," he said. "Not forever. Not even tomorrow." She looked into his eyes, steady, warm, patient. "Just this moment," he whispered. "Just us. Here. Now." And for the first time since her parents died, since the world turned cold, since she learned to smile through pain, Mara nodded and let herself feel safe. Years passed like pages of a quiet book. Mara graduated, became a pediatric nurse, known for her gentle way with children and her fierce love for the forgotten. Aiden shifted his empire. More foundations, more clinics, fewer mergers, more moments. They never had a headline love. No wedding in magazines. No diamond-covered announcements. But they had laughter on balconies. And coffee during night shifts. And Sunday mornings with Jomar watching cartoons in pajamas. And that was enough. On the anniversary of the night they met, Mara returned to the basement. Not as a maid. Not as a guest. Just as herself. She stood in the same spot, touched the cold pipe she once leaned on while crying. Then she smiled. Because from that darkness, something had bloomed. And she would never forget. Sometimes the people who see you at your lowest are the ones who will stay with you at your highest.